Hello, my love, and welcome back to another episode of Native Growth Podcast. I'm so grateful and so excited that you're here with me today. I'm so grateful that you're taking this time to nourish yourself and to dive more deeply into yourself so that you can know more of yourself and start to really create a life from the place of compassion and understanding and joy and purpose and alignment. Today's episode is all about making excuses about why we make excuses, about where excuses come from. But more importantly, today we're going to talk about how there's a very fine line between an excuse and a white lie, and how our excuses can actually be used to reveal our true values and our priorities, but we can also use excuses as tools to help us elevate our standards and find more balance in life. When we look at them deeply and use the practice of mindfulness with our excuses. And the inspiration for this episode came yesterday morning when I woke up and, the last several days, just because of everything that's going on and we're getting ready for this move. And I'm so excited. And I also feel like there's so much left to be done. And now for the last few days, we've been house sitting for my parents. So everything is still in flux and still just really trying to make sure that everything is as prepared as it possibly can be for the move, which is in 6 days now. And I just can't even believe that. I'm getting so excited. But I've been sleeping horribly and I've been so tired. And so when my husband and I woke up yesterday morning, he was like, "Well, what's on your docket today, my love?" And I was like, "Well, I know I'm tired and exhausted and I have, other stuff to do. We have other stuff to do." I was like, "But I really want to make sure that I get an episode of the podcast out, like the show must go on." And he was like, "Oh, that should be what this week's episode is about." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea." So I totally like scrapped the idea I already had going on and started fresh with this idea that we could be making excuses or we could not be making excuses. And I just wanted to dive into that a little bit more deeply and kind of start to develop this clearer perception of where they come from and how we can use them to our advantage to understand ourselves a little bit better. So I started by, first of all, getting this idea in my mind. I was kind of like, okay, so what are the most common excuses that people make? And I thought in my mind, like, I think a lot of people claim that they just don't have enough time. I think that's always the number one thing is people are like, well, yeah, I don't have time for that, whatever that is, more often than not. But I wanted to make sure that I wasn't totally off base with that, like just because that is what I have heard the most in my life doesn't necessarily mean it's true across the board. So I did a little research and I actually found an article written in the New York Post in 2020 that did a poll of over 2,000 people and found that on average, people make excuses 6 times per day, which is more than 2,000 times per year. And sure enough, the most common excuse that people make is that they don't have enough time. But they also, almost like on equal numbers, people would say that they either don't have enough time, they don't have enough energy, or they don't have enough money. So, um, I'm sure already that you can kind of think in your mind, like, yep, I've heard that a lot and I've made those excuses myself a lot. You hear people say things like, oh, like, I know I really need to clean my house, but I worked all day, took my kid to soccer practice, and now it's late and I'm tired and I just don't feel like it. you know, we hear that kind of stuff all the time, right? And we even say a lot of those similar, not totally the same, but we say a lot of the same things, don't we? And yet if we're really being honest with ourselves, like that's maybe what we say to ourselves, that's maybe what we tell other people, but I think a lot of times actually it's just that we're lazy. But we don't want to admit that because laziness is seen as a bad thing, right? But an excuse is really just a lie. Right? Excuses are just lies, and we don't really wanna lie to ourselves either, So I think what happens in our minds is we go like, "Oh, I'm feeling lazy, but I can't be lazy." So then I come up with a lie. "Oh, but lying is bad, lying is shameful. I can't lie." So then our brains like flip a switch and we immediately figure out a way to turn those shameful excuses into these like gentle, feasible little white lies to make ourselves feel better about it. Right? And so then that had me thinking, so then when we know that we live in a world where the vast majority of people, they really do value service, they value being productive, they value fulfillment, right? And yet if we're suddenly having these moments of laziness, why? Where is that sudden, like, suddenly I just don't feel like doing it, that sudden I just feel lazy? Like, where is that coming from? And also, why are we lying to ourselves with our excuses about these things, right? So, so then I was like, okay, so where is that coming from? And I kind of took a bigger step back and I was like, oh, you know what it is? It's that in our culture, we have been unfortunately embedded with this normalization that like it is a good thing to be overly busy. It's a good thing that we should have so many competing priorities and that we should have so many things that we value in our lives all at the same time, right? Because we I think we started with that ancestral coding of communal living, right? Of like, this is my role in my community. This is what I provide for the community. Therefore, I get that love and acceptance from the community, right? Like, if I, and now, like, I think we've come to have this perception like, well, if I have so many plates to spin all at the same time, if I have so many things to value all at the same time, it's because I'm just so needed. I'm so needed and so valued and so wanted and so relevant for all these different people in all these different institutions, right? But I think that along the way, what we can learn from the fact that then we actually don't want to do so many of the things or see so many of the people that do kind of come across our reality is that we've lost sight of what it means to be truly valued just for being who we are and not necessarily for the services that we provide for others, right? And we've lost sight of what truly brings us joy, just that to bring us joy, not necessarily the joy that is associated with being in service to others, right? Like there is certainly a level of purpose and fulfillment in knowing that we serve other people, but what truly brings us joy, what makes our heart glow, what makes us feel alive and excited and passionate, right? And so we've essentially, I think over time really lost sight of how to maximize our level of fulfillment, of feeling that very heartful, fulfilled life while keeping life simple. And in that, we've lost sight of how we can just possibly, how are we ever possibly going to balance our time and energy with everything that we have going on right now, and how are we possibly going to go about paring down our lives to get it more simple so that we can really focus our time and energy on the things that we do truly enjoy and the people that we truly love, right? And yet, opposingly and similarly, there are plenty of times where we don't make excuses, right? And we can look at that and be like, "Oh, well that's because we always do make time and energy for what we do truly value." But I think that a lot of times what happens is we wind up looking at the time that it takes us to complete certain projects or to hang out with certain people and just those types of things, right? And I think that we kind of look at how our time is spent as all or nothing situations. We feel like we have to devote hours at a time to cleaning the house, to being with that person, to running our errands, right? And we kind of get in this headspace of like, well, if I'm doing that, then I can't also be doing that, right? And I don't think that that's necessarily true. And so if the whole I don't have enough time thing has been your excuse and yet you do feel like, hey, it's not that I don't want to hang out with you, it's that I feel like I have all these other things that I need to do. Why not invite your good friend to go run errands with you? Why not invite your good friend to for your kids and their kids to have a play date so then you guys can connect, or you guys take your dogs on walks for each other or with each other. Right? I used to be really good friends with this lady, and we lived like 10 minutes from each other, so that was really convenient. But we did both. We had jobs and we had all kinds of other extracurricular things going on, and so yeah, like we were busy, but we loved spending time together. And so we would be like, hey, I gotta go do laundry, do you want to meet me at the laundromat? And we would like find ways that we could make sure that we were doing things together. And I did also have another friend that also had a dog, and so sometimes we would take our dogs on walks together just so that we could get that time. And I know even now, you know, like just yesterday, I went to go get my face dermaplaned and my eyebrows done. Don't they look awesome, by the way? Josh Penning of JP Beauty Services in Waukesha, Wisconsin. He's phenomenal. But we've also been good friends since high school, and because again, like we're so busy, I feel like, well, it's hard to get time with him. So then I just book services with him, not only because he does a phenomenal job, but also because I love spending time with him. He's like a great person, and we connect on a really cool level, you know. So I think it's definitely worth taking the time to consider how it is that we can be more flexible, how it is that we can go about restructuring our idea around how much time it's going to take to do things and when it has to be done and what can be included and not included, and how we can maybe start to um, allow people, I think, because a lot of times these excuses come up when we feel like we don't have enough time for people. And so I think it's also definitely worth exploring the idea, the for me, a very heart-centered notion that it's not dumb to ask somebody if they want to come hang out with you while you paint your kitchen a different color, or if they want to come run errands with you. They probably have errands to run too, you know, or whatever it is that you need to do just to keep the wheels on the bus of your life, right? Because to me, I find that actually very rewarding. I find that it is an invitation for me and the other person to connect on a deeper level, because I get to see what it is that they do to live their life on a day-to-day basis, and they get to see what I do in my life on a day-to-day basis. You don't have to keep people kind of on the outskirts of like, oh well, you don't want to be involved in all that, and you don't need to see all that, and you don't need to be with me when I'm shopping for underwear, like. And for me, and I would say probably for a lot of people too, I find it very like, wow, you're inviting me into your life, not just to dinner at a restaurant somewhere that's away from your house, away from where you live, away from the type of life that you live on a day to day. You want me to be a part of your life. And I also get really like, that makes my heart feel so full, because then I'm like, okay, cool. Like, we're comfortable enough with each other that we can share these things, and it's not weird and it's not awkward and it's not like this one-sided, oh, you're only going to do it for me and I'm not going to do it for you. You know, it's like it really brings an element of deep connection that I think we're craving and really missing. And so I think when we could just learn to kind of get past some of those excuses and think about how we do invest our time and our energy and our money in a little bit of a different way, we would find that there's all kinds of opportunities that arise where excuses are no longer needed, right? And then we also no longer feel burnt out because we're experiencing more of the connection that we've been craving, and being able to kind of do the chores of life that have to get done in a way that is lighter and more joyful and makes the experience of it, something that sparks joy, something that brings a little bit of happiness. And on that note, I would also say that we could look at the excuse of, not enough time, not enough energy. I know that these are things that have been prime excuses for most, if not all, of the clients that I've worked with. But I remember one client in particular, there's like a very super driven woman, very passionate about her job and her family and everything that she was involved in. And just, she valued herself so much, obviously, which is why she sought out coaching. But but she just felt at the end of every workday like she was so drained. Like she loved her job, and at the same time, because the company she worked for was so large and kind of bureaucratic, that there were some aspects of that just made her feel so drained. And so she found herself at the end of every day going home and being like, okay, I just need to unplug for a little bit. And she would play on her phone or turn on the TV. And the next thing she knows, it's like, okay, well, now I've been sitting here doing this since even past dinner time. I just kind of got to have a snack and get ready to go to bed and just do it all over again. And I think that a lot of people do this as well. They find these things where, again, there's like so many things that they value, but they're all competing for our time and our energy. And she just didn't know how to quite like simplify things in order to again maximize her fulfillment while keeping it simple. And so for her, it wasn't so much obviously that she needed to pare down the amount of activity she was doing in a day. It was that she just needed to get a little bit more focused about where her time and energy were going, and get more realistic about the things that actually helped her to feel like she could unplug while connecting more deeply to herself and her desires. Right? I think that we get so kind of caught up on this idea of like, oh, I'm exhausted, so I just need to sit here and do nothing. But the longer that you do nothing, the more you find nothing, right? The more disconnect you experience. And so one of the real key factors of truly unplugging is to re-plug in to your heart space, to re-plug into what it is that you desire and what brings you joy, right? And so I was like, have you tried setting a timer? She was like, no, but that's a genius idea. Why haven't I set a timer before? I was like, all right, so here's what you're gonna do. Right? I was like, so you get home, you need to unplug. You do need to unplug, but you also need to fulfill yourself. You need to fill your own cup back up, right? It's not just self-care, it's self-maintenance. If you stay ready, you don't got to get ready, right? So I was like, you get home, you take your shoes off. I want you to get into something comfy, a pair of shorts or leggings or whatever, a t-shirt, get into something more comfortable, and then set a timer for 15-20 minutes. And in that 15-20 minutes, you get to watch an episode of something on TV, you get to play on your phone, you get to do whatever helps you to just kind of zone out for that time. And then when that time is up, then you get up and I want you to start doing something that's, um, a little bit more productive and moving you in the right direction, right? So then I was like, set a timer for another 15-20 minutes and you go clean something. Just get up, get your body moving, get your blood flowing, right? Just go clean something, clean a bathroom, dust your living room, whatever. 15-20 minutes, that's all it takes. And if you do, let me come back to that. So 15-20 minutes, you're cleaning, right? Well, at the end of that 15-20 minutes, your blood is flowing again, you're starting to feel better, like you've accomplished something, right? And so like your neurons are firing a little bit more, you're feeling a little bit better. So then as long as you're up and moving, you may as well go ahead and find like your Gaia app or your Yoga Go app or whatever, YouTube channel, whatever it is, and go find like a yoga or a workout to do that is going to take you like 20 to 30 minutes. Right? As long as you're up and moving, go ahead and move your body, move it with some intention. Let some of that energy shake out, tone up your muscles a little bit, get your blood flowing, get your heart and your lungs and your breath going. Shake out some of the energy of the day, replace it with some better, higher vibrations and just 20 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be a lot. And then at the end of that, then you're feeling so much better and so much more focused and so motivated and positive about what you're doing and how you're taking care of yourself. So then, as long as you're still up, you go ahead and you go in the kitchen and you make yourself a really nice dinner, something really good and healthy that makes you feel really satiated and really good, right? And so it was kind of like this whole succession of like, how can I take one thing and keep building on it in order to not only make sure that I am taking better care of myself, maintaining myself a lot more, but that I'm finding balance, right? That I'm finding more balance in my life between the things I know I need to do and the things I truly want to do. And in that space, realizing that I no longer need to make excuses. I no longer need to lie to myself about why things are getting done or not getting done. I no longer need to lie to other people about why I'm going out or not going out, right? Because also in that space, you find that while you're taking better care of yourself, you are creating these routines and these habits. You're elevating your standards for yourself of how it is that you are going about creating your life one habit one day at a time. So the more that you elevate those standards, the more that you start to really get that clarity of, okay, well, these are things I do truly value. I'm going to continue to spend and invest my time and my energy and my money on these things. And these are the things that I don't really care for. But I'm also being honest with myself now, right? I'm having that authenticity within myself to say it's okay for me to just honestly say that I just don't want to do that thing anymore. No more excuses, just elevated standards and coming from a place of true authenticity and just deciding that I'm just going to keep doing what makes sense for me, right? And I will say that when you start living your life in that elevated way, there will be people sometimes who will approach you about maybe doing certain things and when you're like, hey, I would love to do that, but like my morning routine is a non-negotiable for me, can we meet later or whatever it is, they might see your reasoning as an excuse because they don't get it. Right? There will be all kinds of people who just don't get it, and I just want to put that kind of bug in your ear, because just because someone else doesn't get it doesn't mean you shouldn't. Just because someone else's life experience dictate to them what is truly an excuse and what isn't doesn't mean that you haven't already worked through your own excuses and decided how to take better care of yourself. That's their life experience, not yours. Yours is different, and you are allowed to decide what is an excuse and when you're going to tell little white lies versus when you're just going to be honest, and when you're going to choose better, and when you're going to elevate your standards, and when you're just going to be honest and authentic and say, hey, this is where I'm willing to put my time and energy, and this is where I'm not. I'm just no longer willing to negotiate on one thing or another. And so again, I think that I know that um, the more that cycle continues, the more that you will engage in the process of pruning your life and honing it down to make it more simple and yet maximizing fulfillment within that simplicity, because you will no longer feel obligated to spin so many plates all at once in the first time. Things just kind of naturally fall off on their own, and naturally you're able to find a level of balance that you didn't even know you could have before. I know for my client who started setting the timers for herself and started making her routines and her self-care non-negotiable, by the time we were done with her program, she was like, I can't even believe that, like, I'm, waking up in the morning and doing yoga with the sunrise and starting my day like that and setting the tone for every single day and just taking every new adventure with open heart and open arms and excitement of where I'm going to go next. Like, she just couldn't even believe how much gratitude and fulfillment the 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 practice of just it, and it all started just by being mindful of her excuses and just noticing where she felt like she had to argue about where she was putting her time and her energy. And if she can do it and I can do it and all of my other clients have done it, then you can do it too. So I hope that this episode has been just so touching and hopefully very transformative for you. I hope it's been very helpful. I would greatly appreciate any comments that you'd like to share. Um, if you feel called to, definitely make sure that you like and subscribe to this podcast. Definitely make sure that you share it around so that together we can raise the vibration and the consciousness of the universe. And if you are also following on YouTube, please subscribe to that channel, because I would so love to connect with each and every one of you in real time, in real life, in a meaningful way, where we are doing things together, where we're doing different types of mindful movement together, maybe where we're doing different types of ceremonies, maybe new moon, full moon. I have so many ways that I would love to connect with each and every one of you, but YouTube will not let a creator go live on their channel until they have at least 50 subscribers. So the more people that we get to help hit that 50, the sooner it is that we all get to connect live and be together and share time and space and ceremony and practice and just be on this wonderful journey of life together. So I would greatly appreciate having that opportunity to do that with you. I greatly appreciate all of your comments, all of your DMs, all of your feedback, all of your ideas. It's all welcome and I greatly appreciate it. If you feel called to, I also greatly appreciate all of the donations that I get. You can make a one-time donation through the Square website I have set up, theminimercantile.com, or you can subscribe. It's like a low fee subscription that you pay that just helps me to keep doing what I'm doing, and that is through my Buzzsprout website. So all of the links are in the show notes, and thank you so much again for joining me. Thank you so much for taking this time to pour into yourself from wherever you are in time and space. And, in 6 days from now, I'll be on my way to Austin. So I'll make sure to have an episode ready for you, so it'll publish itself while we're driving, and I'll keep you all posted on Facebook and Instagram. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will kind of see you next week. But I will definitely see you the week after. Thank you so much, my loves. Have a great day. Mwah.